and it stands for Neighborhood Council Forum. My name is Joe Avalar, and I am the chair for the INCF. So, roll call, please.
Bartolo Square North, Alice Madrid, or Maria Collier.
We will cancel public comments. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So tonight, we're here. The first phase tonight is city clerk, city treasurer. And if you haven't done your questions yet, please do so. Gentlemen, ladies up here, the questions are very simple tonight. You get 1 minute introduction, which I'll tell you, and you get 1 minute to answer the question. Keep an eye on this here, okay? This will go on after the question is read, and you start to answer, that's when this goes on, okay? So please abide by this here. So what we're going to do first is have introductions, and you'll have 1 minute introduction. And so I am going to start with the ladies first. So will you please? I think they're on.
There's a red button to your left. To your right?
Hit your right side. It's red now. Should be on. It should be the right side.
Okay.
The right side?
Okay. You'll probably have to get close to it. Okay?
How's that?
There you go.
Great. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the INCF for inviting me here tonight for this opportunity to address the citizens of Oxnard, and also for the citizens coming out to hear us tonight. I appreciate it very much. I've been a resident of Oxnard since 1966. My husband Tony and I have owned a business here for over 30 years, and we raised our 2 daughters here. I have 4 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and 1 in the oven, so I've got another one coming. For the past 4 years, I have been the city treasurer for the city of Oxnard. And before that, I was assistant city treasurer for 10 years. I come from a 33-year background of banking, and all of that banking was here in Ventura County. Over my career in banking, as well as the public sector, I have attended many financial seminars and workshops. As the assistant city treasurer, and now the treasurer, I have attended all the educational workshops and many of the annual conferences offered by the California Municipal Treasurers Association.
It's red. Sorry. All right, Mr. Jones.
What I have here is a reference book for the laws of California. Oh, thank you very much. Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. This is a reference book that I borrowed from my lawyer. It has 7 statutes that an elected city treasurer is supposed to follow and abide by in the state of California. The city treasurer, unfortunately, has only been interested in one, and that is collection of fees and taxes. If elected, I will make the priority #1 to protect the voters' money, the taxpayers' money. That is not the first priority of the president's incumbent office. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stein, please.
I will take Mr. Jones' additional time permitted.
No, you won't. No, you won't. You're wasting time, Bill.
My name is Larry Stein. I'm running for city clerk. One of the reasons why I'm running for city clerk is because of the fact that there's been an issue of dilly-dallying delaying when it comes to the city clerk getting information out to the public. Now, the truth be told, following the guidelines of the Public Records Act of 2004 is very difficult for a city this size. Documents are often stored off-site, but that is no reason or an excuse why the public should not have access to information when requested and have that information delivered to the public in a timely fashion. The other issue I wish to address is the fact that the city clerk has the right to sit in closed session meetings. Many times the public is concerned whether a closed session meeting is publicly discussed properly. That is, when the law is being followed. The city clerk has not sat in on any closed session meetings I'm aware of.
Thank you. Mr. Torres.
Yeah. My name is Jose Torres, and I am a candidate for Oxnard City Clerk. I graduated from UCSB with the major in philosophy of minor in mathematics. I am a third-generation Oxnard resident. I come from a humble, blue-collar, hard-working family. I have 3 brothers and 3 older sisters, and my grandparents lived here, my parents lived here. They were field workers, hard-working field workers. I was taught important values at home. Values like integrity, honesty, hard work, and respect for others. I applied these values throughout all walks of life, and I gained some skills as well along, my road. As a UC student and sub-teacher, I've had to follow strict deadlines and budgeting appropriately. I've had to master those things. I'm approachable, I'm organized, and I'm a professional. The importance of the city clerk is, it's not to be understated. It's very important. He basically takes care of all the records, the council city minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here this evening. Thank you for your past support as your elected city clerk and your certified city clerk by the Association of Municipal City Clerks. Information, information, information. That's what the city clerk's office is all about. As your city clerk, I've worked to get information available to the public. We post our agenda by law outside our council chambers here. We also place it in the libraries. But we've also tried to get the information out by putting it on the internet. And on the internet, you can go and look at the last 5 years. You can actually now go look at council meetings. You can look at minutes. You can look at, not resolutions yet, minutes. And the agendas for the last 5 years. So I have and I'll continue to work to get information out to the public. And everyone knows, everyone's invited to my office if they have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Now, candidates for treasurer, candidates for clerk. Mr. Steve Bull, our first vice chair, will read the question. You will have 1 minute to respond to that question. If you don't understand the question or you want the question read again, please say so. If not, the clock will start as soon as you say your first word. Does everybody understand that? Okay. Mr. First Vice Chair, you have a question.
No, I have no. On this, do you have just the treasurer?
Microphone.
Yeah, either one of them. Doesn't make any difference.
Both of them now?
Yes.
All right. Even though he kept everything apart.
Here,
That's
right
okay.
here.
That's okay. It's
You're on
on.
mic.
I'm sorry. Here we go. This question will be for each one of you in turn, starting with Martin Jones. What one new concept or change in procedure would you enact if you were to be elected?
The #1 priority would be to protect the taxpayers' money. That'd be the first issue. And to help gain in that achievement would be to take the employees that are now authorized by the city manager, do I have to say Sotelo as an example, out of the hands of the city manager to hire and retain employees in the treasurer's office, which at present the city treasurer does not have that final authority. I would change that if possible. It would take a vote of the city council to do it.
Thank you.
Well, I know that we have implemented quite a few changes in the last year to help become more transparent to our citizens. As far as the city treasurer's department, we abide by all the laws. We operate the treasurer's department by the statutes put forth in the government code, and also the investing is done by the state of California in the statutes in that code. So the changes are coming, and I'm happy with those.
Thank you. Mr. Stein.
One of the things I'd like to change is start attending closed session meetings of the city council. The city clerk has the authority, out of necessity, to attend closed session meetings just to observe that the agenda within closed session items are being attended to, and the city council and other entities do not stray off the agenda. I've been informed by several members who attended closed session meetings that quite often that the subject material strays off the agenda and goes into other topics, a violation of the Brown Act. As your new city clerk, I'd like to give the public the assurance that the closed session item agendas will be strictly adhered to and not go off tangent. Thank you very much for your future vote.
Thank you. Mr. Torres?
Yeah. When elected, I'll be bringing a new generational change to the city of Oxnard. I'm bringing a new, fresh outlook and perspective on how the city clerk department should be run. I want to improve on the already established practices. There's always room for improvement. Developing and creating new ideas using technology. We need to use that. It's not being used to its full potential. There are certain programs that I want to implement on the website that will let anyone in the public look and search for any contract. We need that. The 700 forms, they've been creating a lot of controversy lately, especially here in our city. Yet they're still not up on the website. I can't find them. I want to put those up and maybe put a little pressure on the elected officials to fill them out correctly. That's one of the main things I want to focus on. But I'm also bringing new leadership on. Sorry. I want to be here 20 years.
Yes, we're always looking at ways to getting information out to the public and improving our office. As I said, now you can go back and look at council meetings for the last 5 years, look at the meetings, see what council members said, look at the minutes, look at the agenda. We put the code book online to search the code book to see what ordinances are on the books. We do have many forums. Sometimes it does get to be a problem because there's so much information you can put out on the internet and make available. But our office is always open to get information, to make it available, and that's our #1 priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 2, this one starts out for Mr. Martinez to start with.
You can be on the mic.
This is for Mr. Martinez to start with. Do you have any ideas that you would like to incorporate that would help make Oxnard even more transparent?
Well, I think if people know if they have a problem, they want to know something. A lot of people don't know our city clerk's office to begin with, what we do. And I've been talking about information. And a lot of times they'll be calling different departments. And the first place to be transparent to get information is to call our office if you don't know who to call or talk to. That's one of the first things to do. As I just mentioned, we do try to put a lot of information online. I know there's a lot of big reports, EIRs and different reports. We try to get those online to complete. Before you have to go to the library to see a complete EIR or some big documents. We're getting those online, and we're working in other ways to get as much information as we can online.
Thank you very much. That same question to Martin Jones.
Well, would you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. What things would you consider incorporating to make Oxnard more transparent to the...
Well, #1, I'd make it clear that there's a big difference between an elected city treasurer and an appointed city treasurer. I don't like correcting the incumbent, but the fact is she has made unauthorized payments. The $300 a month, that wasn't authorized by the body which can disperse money, and that's the city council. So in that one way alone, we would make it very clear as treasurer what the elected city treasurer duties are under the law. At this moment, the only one that's being followed is collection of fees and taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, why are you running for treasurer?
We have more questions to ask us.
I'm going down the list of cards that have come in, and some of them circle a certain person, so that person...
I thought it was for all of us to answer.
Yeah. Some of them said for all, some of them have circled. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you running for treasurer?
Well, because I know the difference between elected and appointed. and I know how to follow the law. And I've run my own business for many, many years and retired and now back in business again. This, the treasurer's office is not transparent, and I would make it very clear what the elected city treasurer has to do according to the law. And it's a big difference between appointed and elected. The elected treasurer of California has certain duties set forth by the legislators in Sacramento. And at this point in time, that law is not being followed.
Thank you. Here's one for Mr. Martinez. Now this is, maybe you know what this means. Why didn't you release public documents to the DA when you first asked for them?
We got a request from the DA's office, and when we got the request, the information, actually we didn't get the request. They gave us a subpoena for all the records that they were looking for. Prior to that, our office never got the request to come to the city clerk's office, to come to our office and make that request. And actually that should have been their first place to come to look for that information. My understanding went to the city manager's office. So as soon as they made the requests, they got their records.
Thank you. This appears to be for all the city clerks. We'll start with Mr. Stein first. Will you sit in on all closed sessions to protect the public interest so that they stay on subject?
Again, as I said in my opening comments, one of my goals is to sit on closed session items to give the assurance to the public that the agendized closed session items are being followed. I have the opinion of two different attorneys saying the city clerk has a right, out of necessity, to sit on closed session items to assure the public that the agenda is being followed. Now, the city clerk is not allowed to comment during closed session items, but can certainly take notes for his personal records. Again, that's one of my goals and one of my reasons why I'm running for city clerk. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Torres?
Well, yeah, there needs to be a certain checks and balances within our government, and definitely sitting in on the closed session items in the meeting is necessary. We have to make sure they're on topic. We have to make sure that everything's going accordingly to how a meeting is supposed to be run. So yes, I would say.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez?
There have been times when I have been in the closed session when it's been items that pertain to my office. Now, normally when the closed session meets, the council meets with the city attorney's office, and those are legal matters between the city attorney and the city council, and that's it. We don't really have a right to be there. It's my understanding there's not a right, and that's my opinion.
Thank you. Here's one for Martin Jones and Ms. Daniel. Apologize.
That's fine.
Acknowledging that this position is on elected office, is an elected office, do you feel your primary duty is to exercise fiduciary oversight for Oxnard residents or be a rubber stamp for the council and staff?
Thank you very much. A very interesting question, and the answer to that is this is a general law city. By that I mean you have 7 elected officials. 2 of them are clerk and treasurer that don't have a vote. But the fact is that the primary duty of an elected city treasurer would be to protect the taxpayers' money. As I said earlier, the $300 a month supplemental post-retirement benefits was not established by the legislators. The city council denied any knowledge of that. Ed Sotelo did it, and the city treasurer did not check to see if that money was authorized to be dispersed. It now amounts to thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, and that the city council stopped that. But I don't think they're doing anything to collect it from those people, and believe me, they can afford to pay it back.
Thank you. Mrs. Mavis?
Could you repeat the question?
Certainly. Acknowledging that this position is an elected office, do you feel your primary duty is to exercise fiduciary oversight for Oxnard residents or be a rubber stamp for the council and staff?
The statutory duties of the city treasurer, which is an elected position, operate under the government codes and follow all the statutes that are put forth for the investing of the funds of the city of Oxnard. As far as Mr. Jones's referral to not approving or signing something that wasn't authorized, that is not under the purview of the city treasurer's office. That comes to the city treasurer already approved under layers and layers of procedures that have taken place. The city treasurer does not make the decisions on those transactions, nor is it her duty to do so.
Thank you. I have, this one will also be for Mr. Jones and Mrs. Navis. How will you make the reporting of public funds expenditures by city employees more accurate? Not sure if that's what you want.
Well, that's a very good question, and the procedures, as I understand them, as reading the affidavits and the search warrants, they have not been followed. There is a manual for reimbursement on credit cards and that sort of thing. And according to what I read by the DA investigators, that procedure has just gone out the window. It's not followed at all. That if you make some kind of credit card purchase that is not in the interest of the taxpayers of the city of Oxnard, you get reimbursed anyway. My favorite was Mr. Holden or Mrs. Holden had a facial for $29 in Las Vegas, which the taxpayers paid for. You know, it's only $29, but overall, that's just a small item, but it's typical and should not happen.
Well, I can't speak to that, to what Mr. Jones is referring to, but I do know that the city treasurer's office was never involved in the DA's report except for 2 times that they came to ask for records that belong to other departments. So I cannot speak to that either. As far as the reporting of public funds, that is done on a monthly basis. It's reported to the city clerk and to the legislative body, which is the city council. It is also done on a quarterly basis and also on an annual basis.
Thank you. Lots of treasurer questions tonight. Mr. Jones, what can be done to improve the efficiency and reduce expenses in the city?
Well, number one, we would stop making cronies of some council members rich. That'd be number one. If we go back and take a look over a period of time, we see one particular land deal that got the appraised value was $1 million. The city ended up paying $13 million for it. And we could have purchased it if we were generous for $5 million. That alone makes up the deficit that we now have in the city of Oxnard. So I believe it is the treasurer's duty, even if not specified in code, and that's what I have in front of me, the government code. Even if it's not specified as to that duty, I would do it. I would be here at the council meetings and talking at that podium and telling the people what is going on every week if necessary.
Thank you. Mrs. Navis?
I also have a copy of the statutes, so we can compare notes later. The city treasurer and all the other departments within the city of Oxnard have formed task groups, and we have come together to identify the spending that has been done in the last year and a half, to see where we can cut expenditures, and also we've solicited the employees of the city of Oxnard and asked for their input so that we can look for places where there might be too much spending in one place, perhaps we've reduced staff, we've had early retirements, so we are addressing the issue.
Okay, thank you. Also for treasurer, we're going to Mrs. Navis first time, this time. How do you verify that your payments are for legal obligations?
If I understand the question correctly, I'm hearing that it's for investments that the city treasurer does. Is that, maybe I misunderstood the question.
It says, how do you verify that your payments are for legal obligations? I would assume that would be paying any bill. How do you justify the amount?
I misunderstood.
I think that's what it means.
Okay, I'll go with your understanding and I'll answer that. As I said before, the process for paying any obligation in the city of Oxnard, there is a process for doing that, and there are many layers to that process, so that by the time the checks or the warrants are issued, then they have been through all of those processes and approvals, whether that's department director, city manager, or city council.
Thank you. And Mr. Jones.
I have heard it said at this table that there's some kind of distinction, it was said by one of the council members, some kind of a distinction between a legal obligation and a moral obligation. I don't feel that that distinction is warranted at all. The legal obligation, one would look to the city attorney for an opinion, and I also would go beyond that and ask people that I know that have been in government for many, many years as auditors and controllers, what is their opinion as to how the city is spending money and what is the legal obligations? I don't really want to bring this up, but in fact I sued the city of Oxnard in 2004, I recall, and won on a transparency issue. And it didn't change much, but I'm prepared to go outside and take a look at things from that point of view and see what can be changed and do it better.
Thank you. Aha, I found one for city clerk. Good. We'll start with Mr. Martinez this time. Will you make it easier for a person requesting public records to obtain them, and if so, how?
We follow state laws regarding public records, and when a request is made at our office, we try to get our records to them as soon as possible. Depending on what the request is, it could be something we can answer a question maybe right away within a minute. If it's more complicated, we need more time. Sometimes if it's real complicated, we need more than 10 days, which is the first requirement from state law to give us 10 days to respond to a requester. And just because we respond doesn't mean that the records are available. We just have to respond telling them if we have the records, if we're working on getting the records, or we don't have the records. So right now our process is pretty quick and pretty transparent. We do thousands of requests and we only have maybe 1 or 2 people who are not happy. Thank you.
Yeah, addressing the public requests is a very important issue with what I'm trying to get across with. We need to make it easier for the people to access this information. There are other ways to access information than going to the city clerk's office and making a public record request. You could put things online. There are certain things that are public, that are made for the public to be viewed online, and we could do that. We could use technology in a different way. Like I said, I'm bringing a new generation of ideas with my campaign. But definitely, there have been some complaints about the tardiness and the lagginess of the records requests, and I will definitely want to improve on that. I want to make it more of a speedier process, get the records out to the people.
Thank you. And from the older, newer representative up here, Mr. Stein, what would you think of new ways of obtaining public records?
Well, to correct the current city clerk, code section 6253A says public records are open to inspection at all times during office hours of the state and local agency. Section 6253 says nothing in the chapter shall be construed to permit an agency to delay or obstruct of copy of public records. That being said, the city clerk's office has a very difficult time in acquiring information that is stored off-site. For example, if one requests a copy of a property transaction, most transactions may go back 5, 15, even 20 years. The city clerk does not have the ability at this point in time to handle and retrieve information stored out of the city. Perhaps it would be more achievable to get faster results if the documents were more readily available by being stored in a local company instead of an out-of-town company. So one of the things I would do is see what can be done to move the transparency of the government by moving documents close to the city clerk so you can access them faster.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Mrs. Navis, would you issue city...
The next round is going to be your 3 minutes of fame. You will have 3 minutes as to why you want to be city clerk and why you want to be city treasurer, okay? And Michael, how do you want to start the time with that? Do you want to do it at the clock here or this clock here? Oh, so you're okay there? Okay. All right. So we'll have our 3 minutes now. And Mr. Stein, since you live 5, 6 houses from me, and I don't want no problems with you, we'll start with you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Avalar, for extending me an extra 5 minutes. I appreciate that. The concern I have as city clerk lies with the fact that I'm one of the few people who probably makes multiple requests for public information. I've been less satisfied with the results I get from the city clerk. I've been told by numerous officers with the public safety department to say, if you want to make a change and run for office. So I'd like to make a change and run for office, and I'd like your vote to be your next city clerk. I understand the frustration it takes to get public documents. I understand the city clerk's office is inundated with information that needs to be dispersed in a timely fashion. There are statutes in place, but those statutes do not allow for the aspects of dilling, dying, and delaying taking place not necessarily by the city clerk's office, but by staff. All the city clerk can do is receive the information and pass the request off to the appropriate departments. It's also up to the city clerk to follow up to making sure that those documents are being answered in a timely fashion. You shouldn't have to wait 10 days to follow up and say, oh, you didn't get the information, we're going to need more time. The city clerk should be a little bit more proactive in responding to the needs of the public. Another issue is the fact that this community is largely Latino. Very few Latinos participate in government because they're not given the opportunity to communicate in their native language or any language they prefer. There are people who are from the Philippines who do speak the language of that country more fluently than English. They can have a hard time communicating. We need to have a community that's engaged, be more active, involved. It's very important for the city clerk to help engage the community, be friendly with answering needs. There should not be a need to call the police department in to respond to a public citizen getting information. There's no need for the city clerk to grab documents from the public when a member of the public is looking for those documents. It's very important for the city clerk to be responsive to the people who pay him. The city clerk's job pays $120,000 a year plus benefits. Extraordinary amount of money, and that person should be responsive in a professional fashion. It's very important for the public to be engaged. One of the other issues is the fact that the community needs to be properly served in getting information to the public in a timely fashion. We have the law. We have the Public Records Act of 2004 that needs to be adhered to. We have the Brown Act that needs to be adhered to. And we need to have services provided to the public in a professional fashion. And as your city clerk, I believe I can perform that service. I'd like your vote. Thank you very much.
Again, my name is Jose Torres. I'm an Oxnard City Clerk candidate. Thank you to the INCF for providing this opportunity to showcase the candidates. The City Clerk department is a little low-key. Not a lot of people know about it, but it's very important. Again, my focus would be to get the information out to the public, make everything readily available online, whether it's online or if it's in the office. I want speedier response times. When elected, I do plan on bringing transparency and online programs, as I've stated before, but I'm also bringing a new form of leadership to the community. I want to provide career exploratory opportunities for high school students, college students to come in and see what we do, see what the city clerk department does, to know the government a lot better. I didn't even know the city clerk department existed before I interned there. I know exactly what to do now. I've been in the position and I know what to do. Again, I don't want to be here 20 years. I don't want to be there 15 years, 16 years. I believe in progress. If someone with new ideas comes along later on in the term, I encourage them to run. We need progress in the city. We need new leaders. I'm not a career politician. I want my city to be improved on. New ideas after I'm done. The current city clerk has been in the office for 20 years, but we need to move forward. We must have improvement and progress in our city. If we're not moving forward, I think we can remain a little stagnant or and stuck in the past, just watching while progress slips away. As an elected official, it is our duty to be out in the public and in the community. I want to create new programs with the community. I want to work closer with schools, and listen to suggestions from the public. I want to address their concerns as well. I'm here for your concerns. I really want to work with them. I've gone around speaking about my candidacy to people, and 90% of the people that I've spoken to didn't even know we had a city clerk department or what the office did. I think we need to shine more light on that department. Even now, we only have a couple questions because not a lot of people know what it is about. We need to get out there and inform the people what we do, and that's what I want to do when elected. Again, I want to work with the community. I want to work for the community. My name is Jose Torres. I am an Oxnard City Clerk candidate. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you again for having us here this evening. I've been very honored to serve as your elected city clerk. I think we have moved forward, especially since when I started. Things online, having records available, having information, not only on the phone, but on the computer available to you. To be responsive and transparent to the community, the city clerk's office has updated the code book, which is online and can be reviewed at any time. As I said before, our council meetings for the last 5 years, you can go back and look at the actual meeting, see it at your leisure, see the agendas, see the minutes. Our retention schedules for all the records we keep in the city have been updated. Our records have been scanned. Matter of fact, we've had some programs, as Mr. Torres has said, he interned in my office for a few months, a brief time. But we've had programs where we've trained students from high school and other working programs. Matter of fact, a student just came in and she got a job at Santa Barbara. She was one of the first ones to start our scanning program that we had, scanning records in our office. As a member of the community, I'm involved with the Sister City program here in Oxnard. I'm the current president of the Oxnard Kiwanis. I'm a member of the Association of Records Managers and Administrators. And as a certified municipal clerk, I'll continue to maintain an efficient office and work with other departments to work within our budgets and to follow the state laws and codes. Again, I ask for your votes and for the opportunity to continue to serve as your city clerk. Thank you very much.
This time, we're going to start with Mr. Jones.
My view, the city treasurer's office has been held in the past 15, 20 years by people that acted as employees rather than elected officers. It's not that difficult to, it should not be that difficult to obtain documents to verify payments that are made by the city treasurer's office. If my name is on a check, I'm responsible for it. And my fiduciary duty is to the taxpayers of the city of Oxnard. It is not or should not be that difficult for documents to be examined for, say, amounts over $10,000. Some things will be paid virtually automatically, AT&T, Verizon, so forth. Payroll is automatic, of course. But when we start dispersing millions of dollars for land that is valued at $1 million, there's something strange, something wrong. And as I said, there is a vast difference between an elected city treasurer and an appointed one. An appointed one takes directions from legislators or whoever employs that person. But the employment of the city treasurer of Oxnard is in the hands of the voters, and that's where the fiduciary responsibility lies. Not to the city manager, not to the city council, but to the voters. It's your money, it's not theirs, it's our money, and it needs to be spent wisely and effectively. And I have no problems with staff. It seems to me that they're doing a good job, and there is an office manager, and I think that's being done very well. But I don't know. I haven't been inside to see what's happening, but I do know if my name is on a check, I want to know what it's for. And if it's your money, I want to know how it's being spent, and I will know. And that is, I presume, would be an automatic function of an elected treasurer. That has not happened, and I will change that. So I have been in this city since 1970. I've looked at it. I've been elected twice to this board of the Neighborhood Council program. I've been involved in politics or the government of the city of Oxnard for many years, as Joe Avalar can attest to. This is a, oh, you won't do that, okay. Nevertheless, I have, I think, a better insight as to how this city is operated, and it's not operated according to the law at all times.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Melvin?
Well, I'd like
Mrs.
to,
Melvin?
and it's not us with an S.
Okay.
I'd just like to share some of the achievements from the Treasurer's Department for the years 2008 through 2012. Our city investment policy was awarded a certification of excellence by the Municipal Treasurers Association of the United States and Canada. Our policy is used by many cities as a model to write their own investment policies. In 2009, we developed and started sending a welcome letter to our new customers to include informational brochures as to trash pickup, animal licensing, various payments methods available to pay your bills, your calendar with closure dates, and a directory of city services and phone numbers. In 2011, we converted the city license renewals from an annual renewal on June 30th to business certificate monthly renewals on business's start date. This eliminated an average of $18,000 a year in overtime and temporary services. Also, we have a staff that attends the Chamber of Commerce new orientation for new businesses in our city. It's on a quarterly basis, and she goes there and helps the cities through the licensing process so that it makes it easier for them when they come to get their license from the city. Just a comparison on the investment earnings rate, the average last 4 years. The city has earned 2.37% on our investments, compared to LAIF at 0.91 and a 2-year treasury at 0.80. The earnings for the last 4 years on our investments was $14,711,000. I've also been involved in the community since I've lived here. I've been involved with the Chamber of Commerce. As Seroptimus International of Oxnard, I was the president twice of that association. I have been the vice president and the secretary on the board of the California Municipal Treasurers Association. And I believe that I have the knowledge and expertise to fulfill the duties and responsibilities as a city treasurer, and that I am the best choice for this position, and I would be very proud to serve as your city treasurer. Once again, with your support, thank you.
Thank you. The INCF wishes to thank the candidates for city clerk, the candidates for treasurer. We welcome you here. We thank you very much for coming. We wanted to put this together and let people know that the INCF is a great organization to work with. Gentlemen, we're going to start, so please settle down. Do we have the questions ready? All right. Who's missing up there? Mr. Tebow, did you go out to get a football? You better do better than that, or the Jets ain't going no place. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this segment of the INCF is for the mayor's race. Same rules apply. This is not a debate. No personal attacks, of course. And you will have 1 minute introduction, and then every question is 1 minute. At 8:50, we'll close this off, and you will have 3 minutes to tell the public why you want to be mayor of Oxnard. Okay? All right, let me get rid of this thing. All right, this time we're going to have our 1 minute introduction. Please take a look at this here. I will be doing this when it's 15 seconds, and I'll be doing this when it's time to quit. All right, everybody got the questions? I mean, you will get the questions. So we're going to start with Ms. Pinkert.
I am Dr. Irene Pinkert. I'm the mayor pro tem currently, and I am running because I think we need someone who has the full-time experience and has been a proven leader in the community. I have been that. I've been an administrator in a community college, and I have also been an administrator for organizations in the city. I think we need someone who is fair-minded and open-minded, and I am looking at reform, restructuring, and rebuilding the image of the city. I also think we need 3 legs of a stool to make the community whole. That means you need the businesses, the residents, and the city working together to make a community that is whole and unified. And that is why I'm running for mayor.
Mr. Tebow.
Good evening, thank you very much for having me. Microphone.
Speaking to the mic as far as you can. Get closer to the mic. It's okay, just get closer to it, that'll work.
And embrace the mic. I'm not used to it, embracing mics. Good evening, shall we start over again?
Go ahead.
Good evening, Dr. Tebow, at your disposal. I have a doctorate from UCLA. I was a commander in the United States Navy. I was a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force, retired. Master teacher for Los Angeles Unified School District. And the owner of America Realty, real estate broker. Married for 53 years. And what led me down this path is that several years ago I read the district attorney report and his investigations, and I was convinced that with the corruption that is endemic in this city, someone needed to step up and do something about it.
Thank you. Carmen, please.
I'm not sure which mic is. Okay, here we go. Good evening, everyone. I'm grateful for this opportunity. I want to congratulate all of my worthy opponents here because running for any office these days is very difficult. You basically sacrifice your life if you're doing it right for the public good, and that's what I'm about. Oxnard is a fantastic place. I feel so lucky to have landed here in 1978 to represent low-income people with their civil legal problems. I've been a lawyer for 38 years almost. I've spent my entire legal career in public service representing many of you and your families with your civil legal problems. I feel that I know the city, I know the heartbeat of the city, I know what people go through, the problems that people have, raising their children, keeping ends together, and I want to bring respect back to our city, and I believe I can do it. I have been a leader in my profession and my community, and I'm here at your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone in the audience in the Inter-Neighborhood Council Forum for sponsoring this discussion. And I think this is a very healthy thing considering the fact that the last 2 years in the city of Oxnard have not been the best. Ever since I was elected in 2004 to the city council, I have been an individual who has asked tough questions, I have demanded answers, and I've even gone to the extent where I had to sue my own city manager for public documents. I believe that the city of Oxnard is turning a new chapter, however. We have a brilliant future ahead of us. I want to be a part of that brilliant future as mayor of the city of Oxnard, and I have bold plans for redeveloping the city in the next 10 years, dealing with the potholes and paving roads, bringing and attracting high-tech, biotech and medical research jobs to the city, and putting Oxnard back on the map. Thank you.
Thank you. Now our first vice chair, Mr. Steve Voll, will read the question, and the questions can be answered by all of you, and you have 1 minute to do so.
Good evening, everybody. Glad you could come tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to come down here. These are a list of various questions that the audience has submitted, and with any luck, I'll try to read them to you so you can understand them and be able to answer them. I'll start at this end with Dr. Pinker. What is the most important thing that you want to accomplish as the mayor of Oxnard?
Right now, I would say to rebuild trust in the city council and the legislative body of the city. It's important that people trust their leaders, and that would be my first task besides dealing with the infrastructure, which is our streets, public safety, and the housing situation in Oxnard. But I think building trust in the legislative body would be the first thing that I would try.
Thank you. Dr. Thibault?
The first thing we need to do is look at the corruption in the city. Nothing else will move forward until that problem is solved. Now, corruption is like a cancer. Unless it's cut out, it will continue to degrade the entire city over the years. Now, these have been going to the city council for many months, asking the entire council why Mr. Sattel was put on paid leave, and they have given me the silent treatment. This is a conspiracy in silence. And in that respect, they are aiding and abetting the corruption that is endemic in this administration.
Thank you. Mrs. Ramirez?
Thank you.
Thank you. I think Oxnard needs to grow up, and this is where the trust comes in. Oxnard is a town that still behaves like a small town. You give your business to your friends, your relatives, people you know. We need to do it like a big city that we are. We're the 19th largest city in the state, and we need to do business better. I've seen things on council since I joined that do not meet the standards of a modern, mature city. That's what we need to do. In order to do that, we do need to regain the confidence of the public. We can't do anything without that. People don't trust what we decide up here because they don't feel that we're making good decisions. We really can't go forward. Government cannot do everything for us. We have to do things together with the community, and we need that trust to proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn?
Thank you very much. No one can ignore the fact of what has happened in the past 2 to 3 years in the city of Oxnard, and my record stands on that. I think that there are still elements within the city that need to be dealt with to make this city, to cure it of the problems that others have alluded to. My primary reason for running for mayor is to put people back to work. There's no relief from the federal government, there's no relief from state government. We in the city of Oxnard can put people back to work. I have a bold plan to redevelop the city in the next 10 years. That includes paving all the streets and filling the potholes. And most importantly, another very central part of my campaign is attracting new economy jobs and getting the proper training and education to back those up.
Thank you. We'll change topics just a little bit. I'll begin with you, Mr. Flynn. How you work to hire a new city manager?
Well, the City Council has decided to go forward with a hiring process, and that means that we will do a search, and that search will presumably go on for several months. The candidates will be evaluated, and certainly the City Council will have a say, obviously, in who's hired as city manager, but it's going to be a fair, open, and transparent process. And so we've already committed to that process. I'm committed to, more than anything else, making sure that Oxnard is best served by a leader, which the city manager is. It's really the CEO of the city that is going to reflect the new city council and a new commitment to the people of Oxnard.
Thank you. Mrs. Ramirez?
We are going to engage in, I would say, a nationwide search for the best possible person to become our city manager. I think at the same time, we're going to reassess the salary and benefit level that have previously been granted, which are, I believe, completely excessive for the size of our city, to have the city manager's salary, whoever it might be, to equal or exceed that of the governor or other national officials is just ridiculous. So that will be part of our process. We need to get somebody in here who is a forward thinker, who considers first and foremost what the people want, and not just what one particular individual on council or even the majority of council want, but fairness to all members of council, and therefore the residents.
Thank you. Dr. Thaubold?
In January, they took the existing city manager, gave him a raise of $400,000, and sent him on a long-term vacation. Still on vacation at the moment. Then they turned around and hired the interim city manager, gave her a raise of $22,000 to $305,000. We're paying both of these individuals more than the President of the United States. Aggregately, that's $700,000 that the city treasury is foregone on those two individuals. Now they're going to turn around and look for someone who is honest, who can do the job, blah, 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 blah. We need new blood. We need new blood, and we need to be assured that the people we hire will do the job properly, with transparency and with
Yes. Well, my fellow candidates have said that we're going to have an open process nationwide where we can choose the best person for the position, so that we can get someone who is open to all members of the council and not just a few, so that it is a fair process of reporting back to all members of the council, and look at the salary so that it is appropriate for the size of our city. One of the things that I think is very important in looking at a city manager is someone who knows the policies and procedures and can guide the legislative body. I think a lot of problems that have occurred in the past would not have occurred had we been more astute about what the procedures and policies were statewide as well as citywide, so that some of the indiscretions that took place would not have occurred.
Thank you. This next question happens to be just for one person. Dr. Pinkert is for you. The position of mayor requires time, commitment, and dedication, and the pay is not great. Why do you want to become mayor?
Well, I'm not looking for pay. I am a retired college grader, so that is not why I'm running. I can be full-time on the council as the mayor for the city of Oxnard, and that's what I want to do. Because I am dedicated to this city and this community. I think that this is a magnificent community and that we have wonderful residents who are looking for individuals who will guide them, that have the wherewithal to make difficult decisions and to be a full-time person to respond to the needs of the community. I am willing to do that. I think that we need to engage the community at every level when we can by visiting the community in their areas and not necessarily here at the dais.
Thank you.
Steve, ask them if they want to answer that. The rest of
Would anyone else like to answer that question? Okay, we'll go down to the...
What was the question again?
No, you didn't know? You don't get another chance. The question is, the position of mayor requires time, commitment, dedication, and the pay is not great. Why do you want to become mayor?
To solve problems. This city has many problems. Corruption, number one. Notice that you won't hear that word bantered around a whole lot. But I would urge everyone in this audience to read the district attorney investigators' reports, or go to my website and click on corruption and look at any one of those documents that I've got listed. Read one of those documents, and if you're not convinced that this city is in bad shape, I'll buy you lunch. How's that? We need change. We need change in this city like you have no idea. This administration is rife, and this corruption permeates. It affects everyone on some level, whether you like it or not. But it has to be changed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to be mayor because I feel that I have the experience, the skills, the interest to lead this city correctly. We do not, any of us, get any large salary for serving on council. That's the way it is. We all have, I hope, some other income because you certainly can't live on it. At the same time, it does take, if you're doing it right, it takes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, pretty much. Because the people want access to you, and I provide that access. I think everybody would tell you that. I get back to people. I believe that our city has such a need for leadership of somebody who has the respect of their profession, their community. I know this community. I know what your problems are. I know what your struggles are, and I think we need that leadership in the mayor's seat.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn?
I'd like to be mayor of the city of Oxnard to deal with the fact that for the last 6 or 7 years, an unacceptable level of unemployment has existed in the city. 1 out of every 10 people in the city of Oxnard is unemployed. Unemployment in Oxnard exceeds other cities throughout the county of Ventura as well as the state of California. So I think with honesty, integrity, and somebody that's willing to listen to the people of the city of Oxnard, I want to put together partnerships that are going to forward that goal and really create a renaissance here in the city, take care of blighted neighborhoods, blighted industrial and commercial areas, and move forward with the new Oxnard.
Thank you. Go on to our next question. Mrs. Ramirez, would you like to start with this one? For the past several years, the city manager and several top officials running our city violated laws and regulations. Some have been fined by the Fair Political Practice Commission. Why are these people that have admitted to lying and cheating still employed by our city? And if you are an elected mayor, what do you intend to do about it?
Well, some of the people are elected. and it's up to the voters to turn them out, if that's the case. In terms of employees of the city, we have to follow the proper procedure and see if people have violated the rules. We've not been in session when these things came out. This is going to be a discussion for the city council in closed session as to how to proceed. And I think everybody knows we cannot discuss personnel matters here in public or come to a consensus here. So I believe we are going to address these things as soon as we reconvene beginning September 11th, next week.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn, go back that way.
I think anyone who's lied to the district attorney should be fired, bottom line. And the process is important, that my colleague just alluded to, but I think that the people need to understand that we need to return to honesty and integrity in government. We need to win back the confidence of people in city government. And it does start at the top. And if there is a tolerance of this type of behavior at the very top of government, how can we expect and how can the people expect for it to exist on other levels, even some of the smallest jobs here in the city? So honesty, integrity means starting with a fresh face, and I believe that anybody, again, that has directly allied to the DA should be fired.
Thank you. Dr. Pinker?
Would you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. Running our city violated laws and regulations. Some have been fined by the Fair Political Practice Commission. Why are these people that have admitted to lying and cheating still employed by our city? And if you are elected mayor, what do you intend to do about it?
Well, I think the FPPC has its own regulations about what to do if someone has violated those regulations. And a number of times we said something about someone lying. I don't know that people lied as much as sometimes not following the correct procedures. And I think that is why some of what we need to do is to make sure that we have more training in terms of how people are supposed to complete their forms instead of punishing them because they haven't done them correctly. I think that if someone has directly lied, then that should be dealt with. So I don't think anyone should be approved or condone. We should not condone anyone lying to the DA if that has occurred.
Thank you. Dr. Thibault?
I wish some of the members of the council would read the district attorney investigators reports. It's documented that the mayor and the city manager both lied to the investigators. Also, the FPCC fined the president, interim city manager, and my question next week before the city council will be, the FPCC usually takes about 3 months ahead of time to develop their case. Now, did any members of the council know this when they gave her a raise, that she was about to be fined by the FPCC? If so, it's very disingenuous. And when we talk about lying, those are established. The investigators swore that they had lied to them.
Thank you. Let's see, that's everybody in their question, right? Dr. Thick, controller for this city.
Absolutely, we need it, because this city is on the verge of bankruptcy. There are 2 reasons for that. One is pensions, and the other are bonds. This city is on the hook for $530 million. And for those of you who are not very good at math, that's $500 million for the size of a city, 200,000 population. That's untenable. Every man, woman, and child in this city owes $2,524. $2,524. A kid that's born, that's 2 months old, owes $2,524. And the greed that's been abundant through the pension payments, I'll explain in my closing statements.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn,
Can you repeat the question again, please? I'm sorry.
do you support an auditor/controller for this city?
No, I would have forgotten that. I not only support one, I've put it forward at a city council meeting. I believe that the only way that you can really guarantee a checks and balance against the power of government not to abuse and misuse money is to have a checks and balance. And we need an independently elected person that can provide that checks and balance. It's one of the problems of local government. There are very few checks and balances. Unlike the federal government, that has 3 branches, we don't have that. We really have, it's almost like one house government with an executive, legislative, and judicial branch all in one. So I do believe we need an auditor controller, and I believe that checks and balance will come forward from that.
You mean we have not enough balance and too many checks?
We don't have enough checks and enough checks and balance.
Mike?
Mr. Ramirez.
Simply put, I think it's a great idea.
Super, thank you. Dr. Victor?
Yes, I think it's a good idea, but before we just automatically say, yes, that's the thing to do, I think we need to look at our whole organization and see how we should structure it so that things work well together. We just don't plug in an assessor controller. I think we need to do that with a educated decision in terms of what the whole structure looks like.
Thank you. Next question. You want to continue?
Sure.
How will you improve or increase the time you have to review reports prior to city council meetings?
How would I improve?
Yeah, improve or increase the time that you have to review the reports prior to meetings. Do you get the information soon enough that you would be able to?
Well, quite frankly, I haven't had any difficulty with getting the materials when I have received them. When I get them, as soon as I get them, I start my research. So it hasn't been that difficult, and I've been able to get with the different departments and discuss the issues. And so I start on Thursday night or when I get them. So, I mean, if we got more time, that's fine, but it hasn't been a difficult task for me to do at this point.
Thank you. Dr. Fisher?
Frankly, it's impossible to read all the stuff that's put before them. Absolutely impossible. And that's why we need a new form of government. Now, Oxnard has outgrown this small town government. Part-time council, part-time mayor, they meet a couple hours every week. They don't have time to read everything. What they do is they sign everything that's put in front of them, essentially. Once in a while, we'll ask a question, and staff is supposed to come back, and by the next week, they've forgotten what questions they asked, and staff has forgotten to provide an answer. So what we need is a full-time mayor and a full-time council elected on councilmanic districts.
Thank you.
This has been one of my constant complaints because, yes, you could even theoretically read it if you didn't do anything else from Thursday night on to Tuesday, but sometimes we receive massive amounts of information, and that isn't even the problem. The problem gets to be you need to ask questions of staff. What is this? What is this about? Who is responsible for this particular action? And we get this on Thursday night. Sometimes every other Friday the city's closed, Saturday, Sunday. Then you have Monday to ask your question. It's not adequate to make the complicated decisions we have to make. I've asked for additional time, and we're going to start getting it.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn?
Most of the decisions that the city council makes are in regards to public works contracts, and those public works contracts sometimes are thousands of pages long. And so I would agree that it is very cumbersome to read everything when it comes to a contract. But I think for that reason, when we're talking about checks and balances, is there are many people in this community that are well-versed in public works contracts, that have worked as engineers, that have worked as electricians, that have worked in these fields. We could put them together as an expert citizens committee, and they could work with the Public Works Department to evaluate these contracts more carefully, act as a checks and balance, almost like on the state level, the way the legislative analyst works, and then make recommendations based on that. Because I think the way it is now, it is very cumbersome to read each and every detail.
Mr. Ramirez. Yeah. What one thing will you do to make Oxnard more efficient? Name one improvement that will save money, time, or other resources.
Well, I think we need a comprehensive review of our permitting procedure, our development fees, our policies. I have sat in meetings with people from licensing and permitting and police department, code enforcement, and they will sit around and say, this is confusing. I also have had to go get permits for various things before I was on council. You have to go all over the city to get your permit signed off on. This is one of the most important things that impacts business negatively. Small business, large business. For this reason, this is a justification for having EDCO, because our city's process is too complicated. And I think that is the first thing, one of the first things we need to change. We need to streamline it, make it more efficient, make it make sense, and stop spending money to have somebody help us.
Thank you. Dr. Thiebel.
I can't answer that question, frankly, but let me tell you a story. In 1948, I was discharged from the Navy. I was attending college on the GI Bill of Rights, and Harry Truman was running for re-election. Harry had a campaign where he called it the whistle stop. He would stand back of the train, and the train would stop in various towns, and he'd give a little speech and then go on. They finally hit Oklahoma, and the first town they had was occupied by Indians. He gave a little speech, and a couple of Indians back there said, "Oompa, oompa." Then he went to another town, and it got a little bigger and bigger, and pretty soon they got to a town where there were a lot of people there, and the oompa was pretty high. So then Harry thought, well, I'll go down and shake hands. This is a great audience. And as it going down, this aide said, Mr. President, please be careful. Don't step in oompa.
Dr. Frankie, that
That's a good joke to follow. I think, yes, I think you had something, what would I change versus something else.
What one thing will you do to make Oxnard more efficient? Name one improvement that will either save money, time, or other resources.
Well, I think Councilman Ramirez said one thing that I've been talking about a long time, about changing our procedures for permitting, because it doesn't make sense that someone has such a difficult time getting permits. But another thing also that would help to streamline is looking at our impact fees for businesses coming in, because they are paying exorbitant amounts of money. I think it's gone up 400% in the last 2 years in terms of what they pay. They pay when they come in, and then when the business gets started, they pay more fees. And I think if we are looking to improve our city and to bring businesses in, that we have to look at some of the fees that we charge them, and our permitting process is definitely a problem in the city.
I think on, excuse me, I think on a couple fronts. Number one, I believe it's inefficient when the city is closed on Friday every other week. It's especially inefficient for city council members when we have an agenda the following week and we can't get answers to questions because the city is closed on Friday. I really question sometimes employees working hours to make up for that 1 day a week off and how efficient that actually is. And I agree with my colleagues on what to do about the permit process. I think we need a one-stop shop. But on another note, I think one of the most efficient ways we can improve Oxnard or get Oxnard to be most efficient is filling those darn potholes, because it's hard to get from one place of town to the other without ruining your suspension. And I've said to people in a joking way, and it might not be a joke, that we're now paying out more money in repairing suspensions than we are filling potholes.
Thank you.
We have 5 minutes left.
We'll stay with Mr. Flynn then. How do you think about electing of council members from a specific district instead of the current at-large system for our city of 200,000?
I think that's an excellent question, and at one point I was an advocate of councilmatic districts, thinking that other areas of town that feel and in reality are underrepresented would get better representation if you elected people from those areas. However, I spent 3.5 years in San Francisco, California. They have councilmatic districts for members of the Board of Supervisors, and you've never seen anything more chaotic in this whole world. It's like fiefdoms or principalities, and members cutting deals with each other to get one thing done and another thing done. And so I've seen the downsides of that also. I'm not an advocate of councilmatic districts. I believe, however, that the best solution is better representation, better attention, especially to the south side of Oxnard.
Dr. Baker?
Well, I have to agree. I haven't seen the upside of having councilmatic districts in the city. I think if there are individuals who would like to run, they can run from any part of the city, and if they have the support, they would get elected. I think there is the possibility of having members who will trade off favors when you have councilmatic districts, and I'm not in favor of doing that.
Thank you. Dr. Thibault?
This is probably where we differ greatly. I'm going to change the form of government that Oxnard has. We're going to have districts, because my feel is that when someone represents everyone, they represent no one. And when you have a pothole in front of your house, as Mr. Flynn says, who do you complain to? Right now we don't know who to go to. We need full-time council, a full-time mayor, pay them $100,000, $125,000 a year if need be. We're already paying a city manager aggregately $700,000 at the moment. It could be done, and it could be a good democratic move. Right now, we have a dictatorial city manager, and I can't say anymore.
Thank you.
Mr. Romero?
Well, my answer is this. I think for like a lot of things in our city, we should consult the residents. What do the residents want? How do they feel? And I think some of the positives and the negatives of districts should be explored by a residents committee, like we see in other cities, so it can be fully assessed. I'm aware of the advantages and disadvantages in different areas for both forms of government. We ought to explore it if this is what the people want. And we're not going to change anything unless the people want it, and that's what we've got to find out.
Thank you.
One more. One more question.
Oh, you have one? Yes. Okay. More dollars are allocated to recreation. In the recommended general fund budget, then stretch together human resources. I'm sorry.
Why don't you pick one that makes sense?
I apologize. What is your vision for future development of Oxnard other than retail sales? Mr. Flynn.
I'm an advocate of infill development. I think for too long the city of Oxnard has focused on developing prime agricultural land. And the fact of the matter is that there's very little left as a result of it. So I'm an advocate of taking these blighted neighborhoods, blighted industrial and commercial areas, redeveloping them, giving people jobs while we do it, and really upping the quality of life for the city of Oxnard and raising the bar for Oxnard.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez?
We cannot continue to sprawl. The city cannot sprawl. And during my time on council, we have voted, I haven't voted for it, but the majority have voted for sprawl. And I totally oppose that. We cannot continue to pave over our richest farmland practically in the world. We need to not neglect our core city infrastructure. Extensions out beyond city limits now will cost us too much. We need to have better planning for the city so we can get around, so it's more livable, walkable, better parks, and that's coming, so that people can enjoy the quality of life. Nobody wants to live in Santa Ana or Anaheim. No offense to people from Orange County, but that's why they're here, if they come here. We want to keep our open space and our quality of life.
Thank you. Dr. Thibault?
It sounds good. Every week they keep approving housing development. There's one in River Park going up 212. Teal Road will be another beauty. That'll be approved. I'm for slow growth. Absolutely slow growth, and I think we need to throw a little green in our philosophy. And what we're developing is a two-tier city. We have the beach community, and then we're building low-cost housing throughout the city that will become ghettoized and nothing flat. This has got to slow down.
Dr. Pickard?
Yes. First, acknowledging that all of us probably live on rich, fertile farmland. That was all farmland before our houses were built on it. I know where I lived was farmland, and there was a ranch right down the halfway down the block before they built a park there. So I just want to point out that all of us are probably living on some good farmland. But that being said, I would say that I agree with infill, that we should be building within the parameters of the city, and that leaving the farmland on the outskirts in the SOAR area should not be approached. I believe in smart growth. I think that we have a lot of individuals who live in the city that are double and triple in families, and that we do need to have smart growth and affordable housing for those individuals.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to go to our 3 minutes, and I'm going to start with Mr. Thibault, then Ms. Pinker, Mrs. Carmen, and then Mrs. Flynn. Okay?
Mrs. Carmen.
Mr. Flynn. It's getting tired, people. Okay? Past my bedtime. Mr. Thibault, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I have 3 points to my Number one is that we must eliminate corruption. This foolishness of giving everybody in the city a credit card and having them go out and rent porn magazines and throwing $362 dinners, it's got to come to a screeching halt. And in order to do that, we have got to conduct an internal investigation. Now, these folks do not mention the word corruption very often. If you'll notice that we talked about moving forward, going back to the basics. That's the same thing. Now, you folks have a choice. Either you elect someone on the current administration and continue the crime and corruption, or go for reform. If you want reform, I'm your man. By golly, we'll cut out the cancer. Secondly, bankruptcy. We're not going to hear that word very often. 2 points. Pensions. 10 years ago, 4% of the general fund was spent on pensions. Today, 16%. 3 years from now, 21%. Your children, 10, 12 years from now, will be paying 25% of their income on pensions that are promulgated on greed and and self-aggrandizement. That is absolutely bad. Now, bonds, I mentioned, $500 million, we're on the hook. Moody's will be downgrading some of our bonds this year. It'll be very difficult to pay, and they're going to raise the rates that we'll have to pay more for bonds. It's going to be the executive branch. No, at the moment, you see, we have part-time council, part-time mayor, and a full-time hired city manager. Every leader in the city should be elected and accountable to the people. If the mayor wants to hire a city manager to help him manage, that's okay. But the mayor must be accountable to people throughout his administration, as the council members will be accountable also.
I want to be your full-time mayor. I am a proven leader who is able to make difficult decisions and will not punt on decisions that need to be made that may not be quite to our liking or my liking. I think that the person who sits in this chair needs to be someone who can unify the community and not split the community, someone who does not have any sides or interest groups that they are trying to cater to. I think it should be a person who is open-minded and fair and is willing to hear all sides of the issue. I think that everyone should have a place at the table and every voice should be heard. I think that a community, as I said before, is a vibrant community only when all three legs of the stool are present, and that is the city, the businesses, and the residents. I think that there are times that we should have town hall meetings in the city in approximately 3 or 4 different locations so that we can go to those communities and talk to the citizens on their, not as we had at the Marriott, but in a round table situation where we can find out what the community sees as priorities so we can take those priorities from those 3 or 4 meetings and decide as a council what those priorities are for us as given to us by the residents of the city. I think that there is a need to reform our present policies and procedures, to restructure our organization. There's a lot of waste. I think we haven't changed our organizational structure in a number of years, and I think there's a way to streamline it, and I think that we can also make sure that we rebuild the trust in the council by making sure that the things we do have clarity. I know that you hear transparency a lot, and sometimes it becomes just a word to use to say transparency, and I think that we need a lot of clarity in terms of what we do, how we do it, and when we do it, and that is what is needed so people will know what the procedures are, what the policies are, and why we're doing what we do when we do it. I would appreciate your support as your mayor, full-time, proven leader, on November the 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. This is such a wonderful city, and we have all the basics here. It should be a great city. But for too long, our leaders in the past, long ago and more recently, have sold Oxnard short, and that is the residents, the businesses that want to come here, our youth, our people, and even our employees. We have great people working for the city, and I'm certainly talking about rank and file and higher. And we haven't gotten the respect we need to get, and we must have, to be the regional leader that we are in our county and in our state. We are the 19th largest city in the state, and we do not get the respect. Why? Sometimes we have embarrassed ourselves, and I want to see an end to that. That's why I am running for mayor. I have a reputation for leadership in my profession. I believe in the rule of law. I believe in fairness. I believe in honesty with the people. I don't believe in favoritism. I am the one who has asked the most questions about accountability from our city employees, from the businesses that want to come forward. I asked on one occasion who we were voting to support getting bonds approved by the city. It turned out that those individuals did not even exist. They weren't on the Secretary of State's website, and that came out later. I voted against that. We have to have more scrutiny of what we're doing with our money, your money, our precious tax dollars. So with your help and your vote, I can be that leader that brings Oxnard back into the 21st century and is respected as a regional leader. I will not sell our city short or the people who live here. We need a better partnership with the schools so that we can achieve the educational attainment that businesses want to see before they come here. We can't just come here and say, well, we'll bring everybody else in to work here. I want to see local hire. Until I was on council, there was no preference for local hires. There is now, and I'm glad my fellow council members voted for that. That is the kind of attention that I pay to what we're doing with your money. I ask for your vote. Please go to my website, www.carmen4oxnard. Read about my endorsements, which I think are very significant. Who supports me? Teachers, lawyers, doctors, state officials, county officials, and many of you who care about Oxnard. Thank you.
Mr. Flynn.
Thank you very much. Before I talk about putting people back to work in the city of Oxnard, I believe that the city of Oxnard needs not only someone that's going to be honest with the people of the city, but a mayor who's going to listen to the people and when it comes down to it, do the right thing. I have proven as a council member for the last 6 years that I've done exactly that. As a candidate, I have not accepted money from any special interest, from developers, from labor unions, from any special interest that has pending business before the city, because I feel it compromises the honesty and the decision-making ability of a mayor. As far as the public's money is concerned, I'm the only city council member that voted against an ill-timed and ill-conceived salary increase for the acting city manager. Again, to state that no person, no matter how good they are in local government, should make more than a Supreme Court justice, or, for that matter, a cabinet member to the President of the United States. And no city manager should make more than the President of the United States. I'm the only person on this dais here this evening that did not support either one of those. And that speaks to my common sense when it comes to money. Let's talk about putting people back to work. I have a bold plan to lure high-tech, biotech, and medical research companies into this city. That will offer residents of this city jobs on the high end when it comes to those that are college educated, and on the other end where they're manufacturing jobs that people desperately need. I've also talked about a 10-year plan to redevelop the city. Oxnard is a beautiful place. I grew up in Oxnard. I remember how pristine the neighborhoods were. I remember when the buildings were not 50 and 60 and 70 years old. I remember when they were brand new, when they were 10 years old. I remember the city hall was brand new. But we need to rebuild this city. We need to focus on making what we have better and not looking towards urban sprawl to accomplish that goal. But most importantly, this evening, I ask you for your vote because I can do what it takes to get people in this city back to work. And when Dr. Tebow posed the question, who's going to fill those potholes? Ladies and gentlemen, call me, 340-1922. Give me a shot at it. I'll get that pothole filled. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is tonight is it. October 3rd is the city council. People, delegates for city council here, October 3rd. I want to thank all of you up here for coming. Really, I have never been more proud to be in the INCF than I am tonight. This is the biggest thing that we have ever done, and I think we've pulled it through. I hope you enjoyed it. Come back October 3rd.